Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Gerhardt, Director of Public Affairs for North Dakota United. Thanks for joining us here today. We've had a technical glitch, I guess you could say, Nick, and back on the Facebook air now. Joining me is the President of North Dakota United, Nick Archuleta, and we're going to give our thoughts today, and Nick predominantly, about Governor Doug Burgum's State of the State address. And we were talking earlier, I guess, just your initial reaction to what he had to say today.
Well, he didn't say anything that surprised me at all. I mean, his speech was inspirational, aspirational, but very short on details. And that's exactly what we expected from the governor, and we weren't disappointed. He couldn't go into very many specifics. As we all know, this is the first day of the legislative session, and it's important for us to realize that there's an awful lot to play out. So the governor, I think, hit all his marks today, and we'll see what the details are as we get further into the session.
We did detect emotion in Governor Burgum's voice a few times today, and really almost right off the top, he did recognize some public workers across the state, public employees. He mentioned teachers, and brought up today both of them, public employees, teachers. What does that say to you that he mentioned that so early on and in his first State of the State address?
Right. Well, I think it was very heartfelt what he said about public employees and teachers. One of the things that he mentioned at the very onset of his speech was the idea of gratitude. And right after he expressed his gratitude to his family and to those people who supported his candidacy and voted for him, and as well as his predecessors, he mentioned public employees and teachers, and mentioned that the state also has a lot of gratitude for the work that public employees do, and for the work that teachers in K-12 education do, as well as all public employees at the higher ed level, education support professionals, and so on. So it really did make me feel good that he acknowledged what it is we're doing.
And we were watching and reading along, and as we mentioned earlier, snowplow drivers were brought up today, and rightfully so.
Yeah, no kidding. If you don't realize this, across the state of North Dakota, we have had some real serious snow impact just from border to border. I mean, I think at one point, or probably a couple of different points in the last few weeks, the I-94 has been closed from Montana to Minnesota. So we've had snowplow operators out there, not just on the major highways, but in our cities and towns that have been moving just a lot of snow. We really do appreciate what they do. They make it possible for us to get to work. They make it possible for our kids to get to school, and they make it possible for people who unfortunately are suffering through some emergency to get the help they need in a timely manner. So we really, really appreciate the governor mentioning that, and we personally appreciate the work that all of these folks are doing.
We should mention, we'll get to some more specific questions in just a moment. You can visit our website, ndunited.org. You can find us on Twitter at ndunited. That's on Twitter at ndunited, and also on Facebook at facebook.com/ndunited. So those are all ways to follow along and see what we're up to. The governor mentioned the abundance of information being our most significant challenge. What do you read into that?
Well, right, and it's not so much a challenge in the sense that, oh no, this is a problem. He mentioned it in a rather hopeful way, that there is so much information available to us, and that that we can easily access. I think he mentioned someplace in there that the cell phone is it's a supercomputer, and you carry it around with you all the time. He also mentioned something in his address that he plugged into, I think, Google or Bing, one of the two, right, free college courses, and it came back with just dozens and dozens and dozens of free college courses that you can take online. So when he said that in the context of education, I think he was challenging us to do what it is we can do to sort of shake up how it is that we educate the young people that we are charged with educating. Are there new things that we can do? Are there other things that we can be doing? So that was, I think, part of his thought process there.
He also mentioned one place that demands change is our approach to education. What are your thoughts on, we didn't get into that a lot, really,
right,
per se, either.
No, he didn't flesh that out very much, but he did mention that schools haven't changed a great deal. At least that's his opinion. I would challenge the governor right back to visit a few of these schools and see what's going on. We do have an awful lot of innovation that's going on in our classrooms. We can prove it. Just come on in. We look forward to taking him around, and as well as some of the people that work for him, to show them exactly what's going on in our schools. I think, frankly, that he, as well as many people that don't visit a school every day, would be surprised at just how much schools have changed and just how innovative they've become.
And he also went on to say he believes North Dakota schools can be the best in the nation. I guess, you may expect him to say something to that regard, but he did strike a hopeful tone today. Sure,
and why not? I mean, when you take a look at the achievement of North Dakota students nationally, we rank right up there near the top. So that's the easy, low-hanging fruit, if you will. If we're going to be different in, say, our delivery of instruction and the way that we innovate that particular aspect of teaching kids, then he's exactly right. We can be the best in the state. We have wonderful and dedicated professional educators that are willing to take on this challenge to do things in an innovative way, and the students that can make that happen. So we look forward to being part of that.
Well, a lot of things that our members want to know, quite frankly, have to do with raises, health insurance premiums. What did you hear about either of those topics today?
Well, as I mentioned before, he didn't go into specifics, but we do know that these are very extraordinarily tough budgetary times. It doesn't, in fact, I think he's in favor of a 0% raise for over the next biennium for both public school teachers and public employees. I mean, when it comes to teachers, of course, he's talking about not increasing the amount of money that goes into the formula. And of course, less money that goes into the formula, there's fewer dollars there to be bargained for in terms of salary. So that's going to be a challenge, and we'll just have to wait to see some more specifics before we know how we can react proactively to that.
And of course, Governor Dalrymple, before he left, mentioned 0 and 1 in terms of raises and some minor changes, but continuing to pay the health insurance premium. And Governor Burgum today said he'll have amendments, but they'll be at some time in the future.
Exactly right, and that's the only way really he can impact the budget process. As we all know, it's Governor Dalrymple's budget. The legislature took a look at it, and they didn't accept it wholeheartedly, of course. So you're going to be seeing for different agencies 2 different budgets being presented, and hearings on those budgets are done simultaneously, and we'll see what comes of that. Of course, we will certainly be there to offer our input so that we're acting in the best interest of public employees, higher education professionals, as well as K-12 teachers.
What was the message on higher ed today? Another area we're very committed and concerned about.
Well, as you know, higher ed has really taken, in the course of the last several legislative sessions, they've really taken a lot of unnecessary flack and undeserved attack. It was nice to hear the governor came right out today, and he talked about the great research and the great teaching and learning that is occurring on our campuses. He talked expressly about the research in aeronautics that's going on at UND and the plants and that sort of thing at NDSU, and talked about the impact of that on our economy going forward, as well as how it's made us leaders in agriculture around the world, and it has allowed us to do what we do so well.
And you mentioned our team here at North Dakota United. We've been going through prefiled bills one by one, taking a look at when hearings are. One thing we've noticed, and you've noticed, is a lot of talk on mental health. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it's some talk that is frankly long overdue, and it's a can that we've kicked down the road for some time now. And the legislature, I think, is going to need to step up and do something. When we're talking about incarcerating young people for drug crimes, it costs an awful lot of money to incarcerate people, and we're not getting them the help they need. So I think he mentioned something today that incarceration without rehabilitation is doing no good at all for this state, and it's true. I mean, we can look at the research that proves that. So I'm happy to finally see in the legislature some real serious discussion about this, and we have some real champions in the legislature that I think will put their expertise to the test and really lead us in this regard.
A lot of us have been hearing the term reinventing state government. He mentioned today now is the right time for right size government.
Right. And you know, you've heard this, the governor mentioned it today, Representative Carlson has mentioned it in the past, and other legislators as well. But we should be part of this discussion. What is the right size of government? And in my view, the right size government is the government that provides the very best that it possibly can for the citizens of the state of North Dakota. There are many among us who do not have the capacity to provide some of these very important services for themselves. They need the state of North Dakota to help them. The governor even acknowledged that today when he said there are some things that the state of North Dakota is uniquely situated to provide and to do. So we need to be in that discussion about what is the right size. And I believe that the right size, and it shouldn't be any larger than this, but to provide for those people that cannot do it for themselves.
Well, certainly we'll be keeping you up to date in a number of ways. Facebook Live is one thing we plan to do every Monday from here on out through the session.
Yeah.
Nick and I will join you and take questions and fill you in on what we've been learning. We'll also, of course, have information at our website, ndunited.org.
Sure.
We'll archive this session so that you can go back and watch it at a time that's convenient to you.
Like when you can't sleep.
Like when you can't sleep. Again, our Twitter handle is NDUnited. At NDUnited and Facebook.com/NDUnited. Nick, I know you wanted to member that, or wanted to pass along that member activists.
Yeah, this is something I'm pretty excited about. We have an opportunity, are able to provide an opportunity for all of our members to become very active in promoting our agenda in the legislature. Let's face it, this is a very tough time. For public employees, for higher ed, for K-12, for all the education support professionals, and all the public employees that provide these vital services. Our legislature they're all individuals. Every legislator has public employees. They have schools. They've got kids that are going to college, working in their districts or living in their districts. They need to hear from you. And so when legislation comes up, when we will be very, very tuned into the idea that you need to know about this, and we'll get this information to you. But when there's information or legislation that's being acted upon, those legislators will default to listening to some pretty bad advice if they're not getting good advice from you. You guys are North Dakota United. You can really be helpful. So we have, as I mentioned before, the member advocates or activists. Sorry, and you can go to our website, and that is at ndunited.org, and click on becoming a member activist, advocates. You know what? They're pretty much the same. So please join us in this really important work. It's not time intensive, but it's time well spent, and I think you're going to really enjoy the work that we do.
We did get a question from Annette asking her wanting to know what prefiled bills that we flagged that would likely impact NDU members. A couple that come off the top of your mind.
Well, there's one that would take ND United members off of the TFFR board. We think that's a very bad idea. We have members that have worked their entire lives in education doing this very, very important work. The TFFR, of course, is the Teacher Fund for Retirement. We need to have our voice and the voice of our members on that board. We have a hearing on that tomorrow morning already, and I will be testifying to make sure that they hear our voice and what it is we want done there.
And we'll be tweeting from that, or I will be as well, getting our message out. So we want to get the information to you as quickly as we can. And so that's one thing. That's 9:30 tomorrow, right away, bright and early, and a number of other things dealing with appropriations and things that'll be important that will, I guess, progress as the session goes along. Right.
And so much of what they're going to be doing these early days has to do with appropriations. As I mentioned to you earlier, each agency is preparing 2 budgets to be considered for their expenditures. We are going through those to make sure that there isn't anything in those budgets that is really harmful to our members, and so we'll be looking very closely at all of those as well.
And Annette, as we mentioned earlier, just a number of things on, health insurance premiums, the raises, things of that nature that will develop as the session goes along. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at NDU United, Facebook.com/NDU United. Every Friday, Kelly Hagan and I will be, or I guess me mostly, will be providing a legislative update. So we'll get information out at the end of the week, and then Monday, again, we mentioned this earlier, we plan to continue these Facebook Live conversations where we'll look back a little bit at the prior week and look ahead at the week to come in terms of what bills. So we'll be keeping an eye on all these things and getting you the information as quickly as possible.
Exactly. And then, of course, the member activists / advocates will have an opportunity to, we'll have a weekly call-in where we'll sit and talk to you guys about what's going on in the legislature, what we're hearing, what action there is that we need to take. So please get over to the ndunited.org website and sign up to become a member activist.
All right. For Nick Archuleta, I'm Tom Gerhardt with North Dakota United, fighting a little bit of a cold, as you can hear, as so many are. Have a great rest of your day.
Stay warm. Bye-bye.